Hello, friends. Welcome to another Wednesday night satsang. We called it Superconscious Tools for Troubled Times. Whether or not you're troubled, these are certainly wonderful superconscious tools, and it's worthwhile spending an evening on these core principles and spiritual techniques that Yogananda gave us as we shelter in place and try to go inside. The topic that we have for today is energy and energization exercises. And I'm going to introduce the evening. I'm going to talk a little bit on that topic. And after that, we'll have Keshava, who's by now almost famous for leading the energization exercises. He will share more about the technique itself, and also we'll get to energize together. So, perhaps a lot of you watching this video are familiar with this already because Yogananda talks about it in the autobiography of a yogi, of the cyclical nature of time and these large periods of time that this planet as a whole goes through, different phases. He talks about the 4 different yuga cycles, yugas, which are cyclical and just go one after another and return to the top. And this is dependent, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the subject, but this is dependent on the relative distance between the Earth and the Sun and the center of the galaxy and that astronomical phenomenon, which brings this planet as a whole closer to light and slightly farther away. And dependent on that relative position of our planet, the consciousness that we experience on a mass level is influenced. And Yogananda's own coming, the publication of Autobiography of a Yogi, the dissemination of the teachings of Kriya Yoga, all of this is timed at a very specific point in this long history of time. This is the ascent from the lowest yuga called the Kali Yuga, which is the dark age of matter, into a slightly elevated yuga called the Dwapara, which is the age of energy. So Yogananda, in a sense, was that avatar who was ushering in this age of energy. As he describes in the autobiography of a yogi, this age of energy started around 1900. And right now we are still in the very, very early phases of experiencing that gradual awakening of consciousness. But we are moving into an increased awareness of energy as a whole. A lot of things that have happened in these last 100 years. If you were to just look around, I often tell people when I talk about the yugas and this particular teaching, just look around yourself in the room where you are and think about how many things that you see in your room that did not exist 100 years before. And think about how in 1900, if people did look around their room, a lot of things that they would have seen at that time perhaps existed for over 1,000 years. That is the extent to which the world has changed. All of us have shorter lifespans to sort of see the magnitude of that in just 70 or 80 years. But this change is humongous. This is not a small shift in the planetary cycle. It has a lot to do with energy, the discovery of electricity, the internet, more recently in the last 30 or 40 years, the atom bomb, the nuclear technology, all of that, everything has to do with how mankind as a whole is learning and has learned to work with energy on a subtler and subtler level. That's really what's happening now. And Yogananda's teachings are so timely. Kriya Yoga itself is a technique of working directly with energy. And the energization exercises, which we are going to talk about more and practice today, are essentially the foundational building block of understanding energy and also working directly with it in our own personal life on the physical, mental, and the spiritual level. As I was thinking about this topic today, I've been reading different writings of Swami Kriyananda and meditating on this idea of energy. And it just occurred to me, which is rather self-evident, we use the word energy in so many different contexts. On one level, we are talking about the physical energy. I feel energetic today. I want to go for a run. I feel a lot of energy coming through my body. That's one way in which we speak about it. For a physicist, it refers perhaps to, something a little more like electricity or something like that, solar power or wind or whatever that is. And, that is measured in kilowatts or horsepower, in fact, if you're, it's in an older context. And that energy you cannot necessarily see or perceive physically in that same way, but it you can see the effects of that energy. And even on a subtler level, often, even in common conversation, we talk about energy of a person, energy of a sacred place. The energy of this place is so uplifting. This person has a nice energy. I don't get along with the energy of this person. But what it is that we're talking about when we use that word in all these different contexts, there's a lot of ways to see the underlying common threads between the different ideas that I'm expressing right now. If you have any thoughts, you can certainly leave it in the comments. It'll be interesting for us to think and meditate on it. One of the threads that came to me when I was thinking about it was simply this idea that energy is something that moves, something that transforms. All of these different things we are talking about, the physical energy is what animates the body. It's what it defines us as being alive, whether it's even the mental thinking process or actually moving our limbs. And the energy that we're experiencing or talking about as electricity is what lights our lights in the room, moves a fan, or runs our car, the energy from the gasoline. And the energy that we feel in our own, when we talk about aura and the energy of a person or a place and things like that, these are things that we feel in our hearts, but they move us in a certain way. We respond to it. We are transformed by some energy that is around us. So in a sense, that's a common thread that ties all of this. And why is this important? Why is energy so fundamental in our discussion, and why are we making this a foundational principle on the spiritual path? Is because, as I was saying, we are entering into this age of increased energy awareness. One of the shifts that has happened, especially in the last few decades, is this understanding that the mind and the body are not only closely connected, in a sense they are the same. It's very hard to separate them apart. And what connects them is energy. And that is why energy is that fundamental tool or principle that we want to understand and consciously work with in order to grow spiritually, to expand our consciousness, to deal with situations in our life. It becomes really important because this is that thread that ties all our realities together, especially the mind and the body and the will and all of that. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. And when we are working with energy, in fact, and before I go there, even on a scientific front, this has become factual now. That's where I was talking about the age of increased energy awareness, where now we understand nobody has to explain to us that our mental health has a direct consequence on our physical reality, on our physical bodies, or that we store trauma in the body. These are all scientific facts that people are discovering today. But whether or not studies are pointing in that direction, if we were to contemplate on our own experience, this is a very self-evident fact. The fact that the way we experience reality, what goes on in our consciousness, and how it manifests on the physical plane, they're all one and the same. And that thread that connects all of this is energy. Now, when we talk about energy, the other fundamental principle, which is sort of an idea that goes together with it, it's almost inseparable, is the idea of willpower. Because the energy that we are talking about, that principle of motion, that principle of this force that transforms, what is the source? How do we get a hold of it? Because when we talk about energy, we are also talking about consciously working with it. That is the whole reason we are studying it, and we have these techniques to practice in our own lives. And the idea of willpower is really the fundamental, it's like the handle that we have on our own energy. In the Raj Yoga book, which is a wonderful, there's a chapter on energy, and I would say perhaps if you have time and if you have the book either available with you in the physical form, or you can buy it on Amazon in the ebook format or whatever, I would highly recommend you to go read that chapter. Everything that Swami Kriyananda talks about in that chapter, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about how so many realities that we find, that we see in the material form, that are limited when we understand simply as matter, the potential opens up in a completely unprecedented way when we start working with it as energy. And this is, again, to reiterate that thing that I was saying with the ascending age of energy awareness. That's really what Einstein brought to us. He was being a divine channel, a scientist who was channeling this divine inspiration into the world to prove to us that matter and energy are fundamentally the same principle. Now, why is that groundbreaking? Why is that so important to us? Because what that teaches us, this revolutionizing idea that matter and energy are the same, means that we can transform matter. What looks fixed is, after all, not that fixed. If we could move our energy, if we could get a handle on our willpower and somehow consciously work with it, anything can be transformed. Swami Kriyananda gives so many examples in the chapter in Raja Yoga of how, when people learn to work with energy, a lot can be achieved that otherwise is almost beyond the imagination of expectancy. And very concrete examples. I'm not talking about Jesus making water into wine or resurrecting from the dead or anything so out of the ordinary like that. But simple things like he talks about how mothers who are caring for their children somehow don't get sick easily, or they're not affected by an epidemic. Something as simple as that. Why? Because that mother's energy is focused on serving and it's constantly flowing out. It is never contracting. And because her energy is not contracting, she does not let that negative force get into her aura. I'm explaining this metaphysically and not in a complete scientific term, but the truth is the same. There's so much in the autobiography. The first time I read that book, I'm sure a lot of these things were perhaps so out of the blue for people reading that book for the first time, all these miracles of saints and sages. There are two people, at least I can remember right now. One is Therese Neumann, and the other is a saint named Giribala in India, that Yogananda talks about how these two saints did not consume any food. How is that possible? Scientifically, these things, I feel like we have still not ascended enough into Dwapara Yuga to be able to understand from a scientific standpoint how this works, but from an energetic standpoint, it is really not that unclear, because they have learned to tap into that source of energy. They have learned to work consciously with their willpower to channel their energy. Yogananda says, every gram of human flesh can power the entire city of Chicago for a month, something like that. It almost doesn't matter because it's a ridiculous statistics. The amount of electricity that you can think of a city like Chicago needing for a whole month, he says every gram of human flesh can hold so much energy or can power the city of Chicago. Now, you think about it, a gram of flesh is a gram of flesh. Now, how do I power the city of Chicago? And that's really where that will comes into play. Because that will, Yogananda defines will as desire in action. It's that there's a heart component to it when we talk about willpower. It is not simply the mind. It is not simply an affirmation. It is not simply a visualization. It is our desire to move in a certain direction. And when we start applying that, when we start investing that willpower in a certain direction, it gives us conscious control over energy. It gives us a way to transform ourselves physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It gives us a handle to work with our own realities, which we otherwise would not have. Again, this is one of those statements that Yogananda made. Swami Kriyananda says, repeat it 1,000,000 times, emblazon it in your mind. Greater the will, greater the flow of energy. What does that mean? What the statement is giving us, I would repeat the same thing. I recently discovered the things that Swami Kriyananda said about the statement. I've been trying to remind myself of this and trying to emblazon this in my mind more and more. What that means is I do have the power to achieve what I want. And how do I do it? Through the conscious investment of my own will. And as long as I can keep channeling it, as much as I can keep focusing and bringing myself together to apply that willpower, that energy is immediately going to follow. And what happens when we follow that with energy? The material plane transforms. Whether it's the sickness of the body, whether it's money that we are trying to magnetize in our life, whether it's some situation that we are trying to improve, whether it is spiritual growth. Whatever it is that we are seeking, the more we ask for it, the more we invest our willpower into it, it starts coming naturally more and more and more. And Keshava today is going to talk about the energization exercises and how this technique It is a physical technique, as you will see it demonstrated, and hopefully you can join us in practicing it. But actually, it is a technique of training our willpower. And not going to take it away from him, but we have been doing these talks online, and the only conversations I've had with people are over the phone or Zoom or Skype and all of this. And one of my friends who knew I was going to speak about this topic today, she sent me something from Yogananda's writing she thought would be wise and useful to share in this class. So thank you, Kamala Devi. I'm going to read a little bit from Yogananda's writings on the energization exercises, and I'm sure Keshava will explain this a little bit more and talk more about the technique itself and how to bring that awareness and consciousness into it. Where Yogananda says, again, it'll be more clearer when Keshava explains the technique, but essentially what we do in the energization exercise is we draw and channel energy to different parts of the body, and you will learn how. But Yogananda makes a strong distinction between imagination and visualization versus actual investment of willpower. This is what I found the most useful in this quotation that my friend sent me, where he says, by imagining that you're sending your energy to the right arm, you may succeed in sending a faint current there. But by willpower, you perceptibly send energy. By willing to energize the right arm, you arouse the energy felt as power. Now, if you were to pay attention not just to the words, but to what Yogananda is explaining in this principle that he's talking about, is we are working with consciousness. We are not working just with the mind. That's where the willpower, I was talking of willpower as desire and motion. We are working with that principle of integrating ourselves as a complete reality and investing our individual self, that will of that ego that is centered here in the medulla, into a particular direction. And during the exercises, we try to draw that energy into a part of the body. And what we are doing is much more than an affirmation or an imagination or a visualization. Because when that willpower is involved in that way, we are tapping into something that's infinite. We are not just working with the power of the mind, or we are not working with any limitations of the subconscious mind of our past. We are simply working with that infinite source of energy that we are connected to at all times. And the more we can focus here and draw that willpower, the only limitation is our ability to focus. It is not limited by what you can or cannot do, what the limitations of your physical body are, or how strong your mind is, or anything like that. The only limitation is how one-pointed we are in our focus in being able to draw that energy. And so with that, I will leave it to Keshava, who will talk a little bit more about these exercises, and I cannot wait to practice it all together with all of you who are watching this online.
Pranked myself. I'm so sorry, everybody. So April Fool's sound is back. So now I have to explain my own joke, which only makes it all the better. My plan was to have turned on my mic, jumped in front of the camera, and then mumbled through my face mask to make you feel that you couldn't hear me because of the mask. But then turns out Divine Mother pranked me in that I forgot to turn on my microphone. So you were sitting here wondering why the heck you couldn't hear me the whole time. I apologize for that, but April Fools, and welcome back. Hopefully you can hear me now. I also took a second to plug those beautiful masks, which they are indeed. But now that that's out of the way, we'll move right along. I was just beginning to say one thing that really struck me from Sai Ganesh's introduction was the idea that energy is what bridges the gap between our awareness of our body, our mind, and our spirit. And that is something that I have really actually been able to experience for myself, which was a tremendous blessing. If you aren't aware, I undertook a bit of an energization campaign for myself a number of years ago. And basically, at that time in my life, I was gearing up for my first competition as a power lifter. And powerlifting is a very simple sport. It's basically how much weight you can pick up off of the ground, how much you can press off of your chest, and how much you can squat with on your back. Simple, but effective. But anyway, it was a very intense sport, and it required that I spend many, many hours in the weight room lifting lots of really heavy weights. And at the same time, I was running a business as a personal trainer, and then I was also experiencing a sudden boom in my career as a stuntman in the Hollywood film industry. And what was amazing, I mean, this just goes to show, I guess, energy and magnetism, because I started finding more success in all avenues of my life at the same time, and basically I couldn't even keep up with it. And so I was trying to prepare my body for a powerlifting competition, I was trying to run a business, and then all of a sudden I was also performing as a stuntman and an assistant stunt coordinator, which meant that my daily routine would be that I would wake up at 4:30 in the morning, I'd do my spiritual sadhana, I'd make my breakfast and my lunch for the day, I'd go to work, I'd train clients until noon, then I'd get in my own 2-hour weightlifting regime, which was, I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10 of maximum intensity, I trained routinely at around a 9. And just for the sake of clarification, 10 means like you pass out. And my training partner and I did that a few times. I mean, that's the pleasure of youth, I suppose. It's nice to push yourself that hard when you're young and find out what you're made out of. But at any rate, I would do that, then I would take a break, I'd go home, I'd get my dinner, then I would drive to my set. I'd drive on set as a stuntman, and I would start work at 7 p.m. in the evening, and I would work all night long. Did the sound just cut out? No? Okay. And basically what was happening was then I would have to be awake not only for the entire evening, through the whole night long, but I was responsible for other people's safety. And that is a big responsibility. And as a bit of an aside, it was quite humorous, and I won't go into the whole story now, but the actors that we were working with were not the brightest tools in the shed. Well, not the sharpest tools in the shed, I'll say that. And so keeping them safe took a lot of concentration. I'll share one brief story that was quite funny. We had this scene where the main hero was trying to break out of a confined prison, and the two guards had tasers. And so we show up on set and we're going to film this, and then it turned out that the person from the prop department actually bought a real taser and gave it to the actor who was supposed to play the guard. And that guy was, maybe, like I said, not the sharpest tool in the shed. And so he and pretending to fight each other with tasers. And my stunt coordinator's blood just drained right out of his face and looked at me and said, "Get." And
the sound is cutting in and out. Do you know why?
It might be my box.
Okay.
Here, let's switch. Okay, let's try this again. I guess Asha's Curse of the Mummy may have been passed on to me. I've been spending enough time with her that it seemed to have maybe rubbed off on me. I apologize. I hope you've been able to follow at least some of my story so far. But at any rate, all this to say, it took a lot of energy and concentration to keep up with the demands of my lifestyle at that time. And I would work all night long as a stuntman on that stunt set, protecting people from hurting themselves all night long. And then I would drive straight from the stunt set back to the gym, and I would train clients until noon again, and then I'd go home and I'd crash and fall asleep for 5 hours before doing it all again. It was ridiculous. But during that period of my life, I realized in desperation that I really needed something that would raise my energy so I could meet all the demands that life was placing on me. And so I remember very distinctly one night at around 3 o'clock in the morning, and we took a 15-minute break on the set. I excused myself and went to the bathroom and started energizing, started practicing these techniques of energization, because I was kind of backed into a corner and I was praying to Master, to Yogananda, saying like, I need more energy and I need it now. I can't afford to be falling asleep right now. And so I practiced these exercises not just with willpower, not just with desire, but with desperation. And that desperation really helped open my eyes to what they were capable of. You know, that there's that famous story of the disciple or the aspiring disciple who goes to a guru and says, you know, who's bathing in the Ganges and says, oh, will you help me find God? And the guru just takes his head and plunges him underwater until the man almost drowns, and then pulls him out and says, when you were underwater, what did you want most? And the man says, air, I wanted air. And the guru just says, well, come back to me when you want God as much as you want air. Now, obviously, I didn't want energy as badly as I wanted air, but it was getting up there. And so it really forced me to concentrate, like Sai Ganesh said, to focus the power of my will, that it was no longer a game of imagination, but people's safety could be on the line if I failed to energize my body and my mind. And what I was amazed to discover was it worked. And coincidentally, after that, through another series of circumstances in my life that I won't go into, I actually needed to take a break from my stunt industry. I took a break from personal training. I took a break from my own powerlifting. And I decided, well, what the heck? I'm used to pushing myself so hard. And I did have these great experiences of energization when I really needed them. Let's see what they could really offer if I gave them the opportunity. So I started energizing 6 times a day, every single day. And my resolution was that I would do that for a month. And I set my will to that. And Yogananda said to develop a strong will, that you should set yourself a goal and you should persevere until you complete it. And then you should set yourself a bigger goal and persevere until you complete that. And so I said, okay, I could commit to this for a month. And so I started. And part of my reasoning behind it was I really wanted to know, for my own experience, what is cosmic energy? Yogananda talks about energy, and like Sai Ganesh said, one of my favorite quotes from Yogananda is that quote about a gram of your flesh, having enough power to run the city of Chicago for a week. And then I'm sitting there going, but I feel tired. Like, well, how is that possible? And so I really wanted to know. And I figured I was practicing once a day and wasn't totally sold on the technique. So I figured if I did it 6 times, I'd really have to be a dunce not to get it. Turns out I was right. I did get it. And what I discovered from practicing so vigorously, so frequently, with that much volume of repetition, was that, as Yogananda said, prana will teach you the subtler realities of the universe. That's a paraphrase, but it's true. And the thing is, prana means intelligent life force, that it's not just energy. You know, Yogananda called the electricity we use to power our world, he said, the animal current of energy, because it has no intelligence. But prana comes from God. And so it is imbued with the cosmic intelligence of the Creator. And so when you get in tune with that flow of energy, you're in tune with the flow of the Creator. And so suddenly, the creation begins to make more sense. It was really a beautiful experience for me. I started having revelations on the technique of energization about every week, it would feel like. But we won't have to go into that too much. But what I'm sharing this for is right now we're all in a period of our lives when things have changed, our routines have been shaken up, there is a tendency to slip into feeling that we're not in control of our lives and that we have no ability to affect change in ourselves positively, or in the world for that matter. But that couldn't be further from the truth. That we have the ability to tune in to infinite cosmic power. And the greatest application of that power is your own spiritual transformation. And that's what energization can do for you. I heard a story from a friend of mine that's too funny not to share, and what I just said reminded me of it. She said she was at the Expanding Light Retreat a number of years ago, and they begin all of their morning sadhanas with energization, yoga, and then guided meditation. And the teacher came out, and the teacher was, in like their late 30s or their 40s, and was a pretty fit man. And he came out in front of the group of people there, and he proceeded to take off his shirt, and he started posing his muscles. And he said, "This is what energization can do for you." That's not the point of energization, not in a long shot. The point of energization is to teach you that you are cosmic energy. And the beautiful thing is, the more we realize that, the more we discover faith within ourselves. That was really one of the things that I was most struck by in my experience of energizing 6 times a day was, yes, I could feel vital, dynamic life force flowing through my body, like the chant, "What is this life?" flowing through my veins. That became a reality to me, that I could actually feel my body cells tingling and dancing with divine vitality. Once it was so prominent, I realized that I had a disinclination to any sense pleasure because what I was experiencing within myself was more interesting. But even that wasn't as beautiful and as long-lasting as what it taught me on a deeper level, which was faith. Because when you feel the energy flowing through your body, when you feel it animating your spine, when you feel that energy inspiring your consciousness and feeding you right thoughts, right inspiration, guiding your intuition to the right realization in everything, that's living in the presence of God. That's knowing that Divine Mother is with you, that she cares for you, that you are her own, and that she will guide you every step of the way until the ultimate perfection in her. That's what energy can really do for you. That's what these exercises are really designed to do, is reawaken within you that awareness that you are a child of the divine. And not just as an intellectual understanding, but as an experience, that you know it to be true. And the next natural step that comes from that realization is fearlessness. Because what would you possibly have to fear if you are a part of everything? If you can feel that same energy animating your body, inspiring your heart, and directing your consciousness, that same energy that animates the entire universe, what is death? And I don't mean that rhetorically, I mean that literally. Because as Sri Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, what is life to the common man is death to the yogi, but what is death to the common man is life to the yogi. That the yogi realizes that by withdrawing his energy and his awareness out of the sense organs and into the spine, into his awareness of the cosmic energy flowing within him, he discovers that he is everything. Now, I'm not saying that I've experienced that. I've maybe tasted that. But that taste was enough to give me a glimmer of what it might be to be totally and completely unafraid. When a number of years ago, during this process, America went through a little tremor of fear when a certain president was elected. And I don't know if you remember that night, but I remember that night. And in Los Angeles, it felt like a wave of uncertainty and fear rolled through the whole city. And I was with my friends Narayan and Dharmadevi at the time, and they were getting phone calls and people writing, "I don't know what's going to happen to the country, to the world. What's the world my children are going to inherit? I'm so concerned. Should I invest in gold?" And all this sort of things. And I just thought, why do we have to possibly be afraid of? Divine Mother and Babaji are running this show. They're with us constantly. So what if some outer circumstance changes or seems inconvenient for a little while? What does it matter? And again, that sounds like a platitude, but for me it was a reality. And I actually just sat down and wrote a little blog on the topic of fearlessness and sent it out, and I had a number of people write back and say how grateful they were for it. But I feel like that topic is just as applicable now, perhaps more so than it was then. That when you can really feel that you are a part of everything, what do you have to be afraid of? When you can feel that Divine Mother is with you, what do you have to be afraid of? But again, you can't think yourself into that realization. You have to feel your way into that. You have to experience that for yourself. Otherwise, it's just a platitude. And so that, again, comes back to the beauty of yoga, which is that yoga is established on the bedrock of experience. And these energization exercises are designed to give you the experience that you are energy. And the more deeply you can go into that, the more profoundly you'll realize this eternal truth. And, you know, I had this realization when I was, or I shouldn't say I had this realization, I should say Swami had this incredible realization which he shared and which I was lucky enough to be able to pick a little bit up. And that is that he shared that in this age of energy, that's really one of the cornerstones of what Yogananda came to teach, energy and energization. And if you have the opportunity during this time, I would highly recommend listening to this lecture from Swamiji. It's called Energy and Energization. It's on Treasures Along the Path. And in that talk, like I mentioned, he just says that he feels one of the cornerstones of Master's teaching are energy and energization, and that he came in, as Sai Ganesh mentioned, to help usher in the new age. But here's what I thought was really fascinating about that, was he went on to say that the energization exercises, Yogananda said, were his unique contribution to the science of yoga. And he took that another step further, and he said, in this age of Dwapara Yuga, energy is the thread of the sweater, the metaphorical sweater, that if we pull, the whole sweater can come unraveled. Because there is a special magnetism in the universe right now that helps to open the human consciousness to this ray of inspiration, this ray of expansion. And so these energization exercises are a tremendous tool for spiritual awakening. Yogananda said in some of his writings, I believe you can find it in the How to Achieve Glowing Health and Vitality book, he said that the energization exercises, now pay attention, were one of the greatest gifts ever bestowed upon mankind. Think about that. One of the greatest gifts ever bestowed upon mankind. And how many times do we practice it without deep awareness, without deep appreciation, that we just practice it routinely while we're waiting for the tea to boil? Well, I had one devotee friend in Los Angeles say with such wonderful self-honesty, she said, I think my energization practice needs a little bit of a revamp because now it only takes me as long as it takes for my tea to boil. I thought, yeah, that's what, 3 minutes or something? It's time to re-examine those exercises. But remember, just one of the other things that Yogananda said about energization was he said that it's the desert island technique. That he said if you were stranded on a desert island and only given one technique to take with you, that it should be energization. Because through energization, you would become attuned to the cosmic flow of prana in your body, and that cosmic flow of prana, intelligent life force, would teach you everything you needed to know. That prana would be your guide. Prana would teach you Hang Sa, would teach you Kriya, would teach you the higher Kriyas. It would teach you everything you needed to know, because prana is God's intelligent life force flowing in creation. So, here's some incentivizing thoughts to bring into your practice of energization right now. We have some time. Now is a wonderful time to practice flexing the muscles of our will. I encourage you, if you know the energization exercises, try practicing them a little more frequently than you have before. Maybe try practicing twice or 3 times a day, once at every meal, perhaps. Or my personal favorite way to do it is to practice a few repetitions in a row, because you'll discover that they get deeper and more profound with each repetition, especially if you're able to hold your concentration at the point between the eyebrows and remain receptive to the technique. So now, we're going to shift gears a little bit, and we're going to talk about the technique specifically, and I'm going to guide us in the practice of energization. So just some brief fundamentals, which I'm sure you all are aware of, is Yogananda said to tense with will and relax and feel. Now these two principles are really the essence of learning to control energy. Really pay attention to these. These are worth meditating on, contemplating on, and applying in all avenues of your life. You'll discover that they are applicable to everything. Now, when we say tense with will, one of the things that I would like to highlight here is that tension is not actually the goal. Tension is the tool to awaken our awareness to the goal, which is energy. So when we tense with will, even though guilty, I was an ex-powerlifter, I could tense my muscles really hard until like my whole body turned red from effort. But that's not actually the goal. The goal is to become aware of the flow of energy. So when we tense, keep a portion of your awareness withdrawn out of the tension so you can be aware of that tension, so you can be aware of the current of will that you're directing. And then when you relax and feel, let's not just relax passively, but use the feeling quality of the heart to feel the process of energy moving through the body. Now, the last thing that I'd like to share, that perhaps one of the most transformative things to focus on in the exercises for me has been to equally emphasize the process of relaxation as I do the process of tension. Because we know that when we tense with will, we are taught to tense low, medium, and high. And then we're supposed to relax high, medium, and low. But I don't know if it's just me or anybody else. But I tend to tense low, medium, and high, and then, just let it go. But let's try and be equally aware, because they're both equally important. If all we do is tense with will, tense with will, tense with will, all we're going to do is give ourselves an anxiety attack later. Maybe not now. Or, I used to have people tell me, I practice energization and then I can't sleep. Well, unfortunately, that means you're not practicing energization. If you practice it correctly, it doesn't just rev you up into a state of like manic energy, but it gives you complete poise. That's really one of the great measuring sticks to see if you are practicing correctly. Do you feel poised and centered within yourself when you're finished? So, now without any other musings, let's go ahead and practice our energization together. Okay, so let's all stand. And actually, first we're just going to do a brief demonstration just to awaken your willpower to the potential of its own inherent power. So first things first, I want everybody to raise your arms out in front of your body like so. Okay? Now close your eyes and just take a mental assessment of your left and right arms. And specifically the forearms, so the section of your arm from your elbow to your wrist. And just feel how alive they feel, how awake they feel. And maybe ask yourself, if you're a visual learner, like what color would you assign your arms right now? Or on a scale of 1 to 10, how awake and powerful do they feel? Just get a mental feel for that. And you can lower your arms to the sides. Hey, it's 8:15, it's been a long day of social isolation and quarantine. Maybe it's a 3. Let's see what happens now. So now let's put our left fist in front of the body, and I want you to make a fist as if you were grabbing a stone or perhaps a stress anxiety ball, okay? And now go ahead and just squeeze that lightly. So you're not very anxious, but just a little bit. Okay, I'll stop that analogy. It's too close to home. So now let's bring that tension up to medium. And now I want you to look at your forearm, look at your fist. And now I want you to tense high. Okay, now here's the gambit. I want you to tense as high as you can. Look at your knuckles. You should be white knuckling this. Now listen to me very carefully. I want you to tense higher. Direct your will, not just the tension of your muscles, but use the power of your mind. Direct it into your forearm. Tense a little higher. You should be vibrating with divine energy. A little higher still. See if you can do it. Try. And now let's relax back to what we thought was high. Now very gradually to medium, but don't just relax completely. Hold that medium. Now to low. Feel the subtle gradation of medium to low. And now open your hand and relax your forearm to the side and just feel. Close your eyes and feel the forearm. Feel for the return of the blood into the muscles. You might feel a little cool rush of the oxygen returning to those cells. The warmth, perhaps. Good. And now, with your eyes closed, just raise both arms again up in front of the body. And just notice, does either arm feel a little more awake? What color is your left arm now? Is it a little brighter? What number is it on a scale of 1 to 10? So now if I were teaching in person, I would say, now raise the arm that feels more awake and ready. This would normally provide a dramatic effect because almost everybody always raises the left arm. But so you can look around you and just imagine the 10,000 fellow devotees standing 6 feet apart from each other. Wow, we're all raising our left hand. But so hopefully you experience that for yourself. That's the power of will directed into the body. So now with that in mind, actually there's one other lesson that exercise really proves. When I told you to tense as hard as you could, were you really? When I said tense a little harder, did you find that you could? And then I wasn't just being excessive, which perhaps is a character trait of mine, but I said tense harder still. Could you? I found that I could. I did this exercise with Gyandev McCord, and he said, tense as hard as you could, and I was, oh, and then he said, tense harder, and I went, oh my God, I can. How was that? I thought I was. There's always more. It's limitless. It's just the power of your will. The more you can concentrate, the more energy you can send. Yogananda said if you could tense any body cell with enough energy, you could transform your body cells into pure light. Okay? So if you haven't achieved that yet, you're not tensing hard enough. Actually, another thing that I read, I don't remember where, so we'd have to fact check this one, but I think Yogananda said you have perfected the energization exercises when you can dematerialize your body and rematerialize at will. So if we can't do that yet, we've got a ways to go, okay? So with that in mind, let's practice with an awareness of the greater potential of these exercises. If I can't dematerialize and rematerialize, how much is there left for me to learn? Probably a lot. So let's begin with the prayer together. And let's call out with the deepest sincerity, with the soul yearning of our hearts, to our Divine Mother, cosmic energy dancing in all creation, to come to us now. Please pray with me. Oh, infinite Spirit, recharge my body with thy cosmic energy. Recharge my mind with thy concentration, and recharge my soul and all souls with thy ever-new joy. O eternal Spirit of youth, abide within me forever and forever. Om. Very good. So let's begin with the double breathing palms together. If you have never practiced these before, I suggest you pause this video, go to YouTube, and look up energization exercises. And there's a whole series. I did about 20 videos of teaching the energization exercises, and you can check those out or another from Expanding Light. But I'm assuming that everyone's practiced before, so we'll move a little more quickly. So let's begin with double breathing, palms touching, placing the palms together. Let's tense the whole body. Tense with a wave up from the feet to the head, so the tension builds up the body as well as intensity. So let's really tense all the way, low, medium, high, a little higher, vibrate, and relax and feel. One more time. Remember that exercise we did. Tense a little more and relax deeply with profound feeling. Now let's tense the left calf. So we'll draw the calf up to the buttock. We'll relax and feel and tense it back down. You know, one thing that's worth remembering, no exercise is lesser or greater than another, because the goal is control of energy. That your calf is no less important than your wrist. So let's practice this with awareness. Tense that calf up, relax and feel. Tense down, relax and feel. Ankle rotations, but with tension. Can you can you keep the same amount of tension in every portion of the circle? Okay. Now right calf, tensing up. Relax and feel, tense down, relax and feel. Tense up, low, medium, high, high, medium, low. Relax, switch, low, medium, high, medium, low. And switch. Ankle rotations. And let's place the left foot in front of the right. And let's tense the left calf and forearm together, low, medium, high, and relax and feel. Thigh and upper arm, low, medium, high, relax and feel. Calf and forearm. Tense until you vibrate, and then a little more, and then relax gradually and feel. Thigh and upper arm. One more time, calf and forearm. Thigh and upper arm. Let's switch sides. We'll move a little faster, because I talked a little too much. So calf and forearm, relax. Thigh and upper arm, relax. Calf and forearm, thigh and upper arm. Now both together, tense with great will. Relax with dynamic feeling. Thighs and upper arms. See if you can put as much energy and awareness into the feeling portion. And now let's sense the left buttock and chest. Relax, right side. Releasing the tension gradually and with awareness. You ought to be able to stop this process at any point flawlessly. That if I said tense low, medium, high, medium, whoop. Can you just hold there? We ought to be able to. Good, and now we'll tense the left lower back. Relax, right. Relax, left and right. One more time. And now the left middle back, drawing the shoulder blade down. Relax, right. Relax, left. Relax, right. Let's really use our will here. Feel that you're directing cosmic energy into these muscles. Relax and feel, right? Relax. Now the left upper back, drawing the shoulder up and back gently, slightly. And now here, close your eyes and visualize a great light entering the muscles and vibrating with power before relaxing and surrendering your material form. Left, right. And now hands on the shoulders. Let's rotate the shoulders with tension. So you never release the tension here. We just rotate with tension. Relax and feel. Switch directions. And relax and feel. Let's tense the center of the throat. Again, let's do low, medium, high, medium, low, and feel. Again, I really like to try and focus on feeling the energy entering the medulla during the throat exercises because of the proximity. So let's tense the left side of the neck, relax and feel. Now right, and like I just mentioned, try and feel the energy entering in from the medulla into the neck. Use your imagination, and then as Sai Ganesh pointed out, energize that with the power of your will. Will it to be so. Don't just wonder, but will it. And now let's tense the back of the neck. And neck rotations as if you got a pencil on the top of your noggin and you're drawing a little circle on the ceiling. And switch directions. And relax and feel. Now with a larger circle with low to no tension. Switch directions. And pause and feel. Now interiorize your awareness. Focus on your spine. Your physical spine, and then if you're able, your astral spine. And let's energize the physical and astral spine with the spinal rotation. Or excuse me, spinal recharge. But again, let's use our will. This isn't just about doing the twist. We're trying to energize our spines. So now let's place our hands on our hips. We'll do the spinal rotation exercise. Now this one often I see people doing a little incorrectly. We ought to bend forward slightly, but then the movement is fairly small. We're just rotating the spine within the pelvic bowl. So the hip joint does not move. It's just the spine. And then you add the element of tension through the entire length of your spine to energize your spine. Switch directions. And relax and feel. Now we'll do spinal stretching left and right. So hands on the hips. We'll tense one way, relax back to the center and feel and relax. This is a great way to feel the natural magnetism of your own spine. Feel that there's an urge to come back to the center. And now we'll do the spinal adjustment. You can place the fists at the base of the spine and gently working up. But again, let's try and not just focus on the physical, but feel that you're freeing the flow of energy in your spine through your will. And we'll do the upper back recharge now, making a fist in front of the heart. And like you're drawing a bow and arrow, left arm extends behind us while the right comes to the chest. We switch sides. Do this with tension and then relax and feel. Try and energize your whole arm and shoulder and back. And again, let's visualize a beautiful golden light pouring in from the medulla into these muscles. And let's rap, tap, tap the skull. In an affirmation Yogananda wrote, he said, I know that in tension, I put forth energy into the body, and in relaxation, I withdraw it. That's worth meditating on. Now let's take the fingers and let's massage the scalp. But here's something I was contemplating for quite a long time. Where does that energy withdraw to? I know that in tension I put forth energy into the body, and in relaxation I withdraw it. Now let's take those 3 fingers of each hand and place them at the base of the skull on the medulla oblongata. Pressing in, let's rotate 3 times in each direction. And now pressing in, let's double inhale. Doing our medulla recharge again. This is perhaps one of the most important exercises. Let's really open the portal of divine prana into our bodies. Let's rotate 3 times in each direction. Feel that you're opening a floodgate. And as you relax, let that floodgate receive the stream of God's energy. One more time. Great. And now clasping the fingers together overhead, let's tense the left biceps, low, medium, high, high, medium, low, and feel left side, low, medium, high energy, a little more energy, and relax gradually and feel left side. Let's try and transform this left biceps into energy, shall we? So low, medium, high, a little higher. Close your eyes and concentrate on light in that muscle and relax and feel. Right side, relax and feel. Lower the arms to the side for a moment and relax. My personal hypothesis to the question I posed, where does the energy withdraw to, is the spine and the brain. But you should ask that question yourself and see what answer you come up with. Now let's tense the entire body with a double breath. Low, medium, high. Feel that you're transforming into light. And relax and surrender away from your material form. Now we'll tense the entire body in 20 parts. So tense and relax the left foot. Now the right. Now the left calf. Try and be aware of every cell in your calf. Relax, right? Relax. Left thigh. Relax. Right thigh. Left hip and bottom. Right. Lower abdomen. Stomach above. Left forearm. Relax. Right. Relax. Left upper arm, relax, right. Left chest, relax, right. Left side of the neck, relax, right. Center of the throat, relax. Back of the neck. Relax completely, shake it off. Now we'll tense and hold that entire sequence. I'll say it pretty quick, so let's do our best to keep up. Tense and hold, left foot right, left calf right, left thigh right, left bottom right, lower stomach, upper stomach, left forearm right, left arm right, left chest right, left neck right, throat, back of the neck. And now relax the neck to the chest. Now relax just your right chest, left, right arm left, right forearm left, stomach, abdomen, pause. Everything from your belt down should be tensed. Is it? If not, tense it up. And now relax your right bottom left, right thigh left, right calf left, right foot left. Drop your chin to your chest. Let's double inhale, tense the body again. Weightlifting to the front. Tensing the arms up, relax and feel, and down. And again, low, medium, high, high, medium, low. And again. And double breathing, elbows touching. Remember that energy is joyful. Let's do this with a smile on our face. With every inhalation, you can feel that you're drawing in God's joy and energy. Weight pulling to the sides. And with every exhalation, feel that you're letting go of any tension or anxiety or delusion that holds you away from your infinite potential. And arm rotations with the fists facing upwards with the elbows extended, low, medium, high energy. Relax. Switch directions. Low, medium, high energy. Relax. Now weight pulling to the front. Let's do this with enthusiastic interest. How deeply would you practice these exercises if Yogananda were watching you right now? Relax and feel. And now here's the kicker. He is watching you. He's in you. So let's practice with him. Let's do finger recharge. out to the sides. And close your eyes for a moment overhead. And let's all tune in for a moment and feel Yogananda's presence. And let's ask him to bless us in our practice of energization. Let's ask if we can borrow his willpower, if we can borrow his awareness of energy. I'll just borrow that for a moment. Sir, if you don't mind, let's do 4-part army charge. Tensing out, relax, tense in, relax, tense forward, relax, tense in, relax, tense overhead. Now with the breath. Single army charge, left side, right. Let's tense with great will. Relax and feel. Now to the side, left arm comes up to the ear, and then we bend a little bit at the hip. Tense with great will, and then relax and feel. Try and feel every body cell dancing with the divine vitality. And let's march in place. I find that whatever exercise you put most of your enthusiasm and energy into quickly becomes your favorite. And the walking in place was my least favorite for a while. And I realized that every time I did it, I sort of dreaded it. And then I read that Master said you ought to do this 50 to 200 times. And I actually started counting it for a while. It takes a little longer than you'd think. And then I read that Master said we ought to bring our thighs parallel to the ground. And here's the kicker, literally and metaphorically, that we ought to kick our bottom with our heel. And that this helps to awaken the reservoir of Kundalini energy in the spine. I'll sign up for that. All of a sudden, this exercise got interesting. Now, let's use that willpower. And let's run in place. You thought we were done. We're not done yet. Uh-oh. Run, 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 run. I would run much faster, but I don't want the mic to fall off of my chest. And I'm drifting. And let's pause and feel. Close your eyes, hold the body still, catch your breath. Feel the body, relax and feel. Can you feel any tingling in your legs? That's prana. That's God's power awakening within you. By conscious relaxation, see if you can draw that energy into the spine and up to the spiritual eye. Now let's do the fencing exercise, stepping forward with the left leg. Let's tense the whole right side of the body. Relax in and feel. I heard secondhand that apparently Davy says she likes to imagine that she's casting out delusion when she does this. And I thought, go Davy, that's awesome. It is awesome. So let's cast out delusion with the power of our will, with the power of divine will. And now large arm rotations with tension. Tensing up and relax and feel. But remember that divine power is fun. Oh my gosh, it's a whole lot of fun. Switch directions. So don't tense so hard that you forget to enjoy. That's why we have to have the perfect balance. Stomach recharge of tension and relaxation. Of self-effort and receptivity. Stomach pumping. And stomach rotation. Close your eyes for a moment and feel that this body is no longer yours. That it is just billions and billions of God's atoms animated by His cosmic life force. And that you are just borrowing it for a time, that you are the custodian of this body. And invite God once again into this temple. Invite Master into this temple. And let's feel that they're practicing these energization exercises through us, that they're dancing their dance of cosmic life, cosmic power through your limbs. Let's do double breathing palms touching. But like a good dance partner, let's be totally receptive to their presence. Feel that it is their power moving you, animating you, energizing you, that they are you. What is this life flowing through my veins? tense the left calf. But again, in a mystical dance with Divine Mother. Divine Mother is cosmic energy in creation. Feel her living presence in your body for yourself and know that you live not alone. Switch directions. Right calf. Ultimately, these exercises can become a profound expression of devotion and self-offering. Let's try and experience that now, left hip rotation. That this is a perfect balance of receptivity, self-offering, will, love, gratitude. And now the right hip. With the awareness that these are some of the greatest gifts ever bestowed upon mankind. Double breathing, no tension, the most important of all. Let the hands float out with the double exhale, in with the double in. And now close your eyes, concentrate at the spiritual eye, and let your hands be like the sails of a ship. And your breath is the wind. Wherever the breath goes, the hands follow. As you inhale, you could try visualizing waves of cosmic light and energy washing down the medulla into your whole body, into your brain. And as you exhale, offer yourself completely and entirely, without reservation, upwards at the spiritual eye and into the cosmic sea. Feeling that your energy is no longer bound by the limitations of your physical body, but you are surrendering your awareness of self into infinity. If you feel, you can pray silently. Ask Divine Mother to teach you awareness of prana. Let's practice this about 5 more repetitions. Yogananda said we ought to be able to do this so deeply that we go breathless, just like in Hong Sa. That we become completely merged with that cosmic flow of prana within us. And let's lower the arms to the side and hold ourselves in perfect stillness for a moment with the gaze at the spiritual eye. Feel your body, your feet, your legs, your fingers, your face, your brain, alive with the presence of God, tingling and humming with the divine power. And you can sit. We'll prepare for a meditation together.